Hey there, what's going on? It's Doug Cunnington here, and I don't know why I need these. We'll just have to see if you can hear me out there, so let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Today we're going to do some Q&A. I'm going to drink a beer here, which we have. Apparently it's National Beer Day. I was chatting with my dad earlier, and he made me aware. I had no clue. I can actually hear myself right here. So let me know if it's a little too loud or a little too quiet. I can actually adjust things. You'll notice that I am in, let me turn it down just a little bit. There we go. Maybe that's too much. Basically, I'm in the basement. I was recording a couple podcast episodes with my friend Carl Jensen. He and I have a show called the Mile Hi-Fi Podcast. It's not yet launched, but you can sign up for the email list over at milehifi.club. And I see we have Gustavo on and David as well. Jake is around too. So this is great. I'm going to have to watch the chat here. It's a little different setup. I haven't moved my whole office or anything like that, but there's enough room down here to record, and I had everything set up. So I thought this might be a more friendly medium for me just to sit down. I may record down here like this a lot more often. So I'm just around to answer questions today. I don't have a whole lot to cover specifically. So if you have questions about keyword research or affiliate marketing, we can get into it. While we're just sitting around talking, I will tell you about my beer that I'm going to have. And I'll give a plug to a couple sponsors. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be here. So we have Ezoic, and they've been sponsoring me for a while. For some time, I would tell you about the Site Speed Accelerator. Well, they have a new tool called Leap. It replaces the Site Speed Accelerator, so it helps your site load faster. And one of the main things that Leap is attempting to fix and solve is any speed issues or any issues that will impact your core web vital score. So if you are worried about that, as we all should be aware of the Google update coming around here in, I guess, like a month or less than a month, I think it's sometime in May, Leap will help you do better with your core web vitals. I know, for example, Niche Site Project, it actually loads really, really fast. But when I do look at the core web vitals, it is still a little bit off on a couple areas. I'm actually not even sure what to do. It's a really lean WordPress theme. I don't have any weird things going on, and there's still some times where the core web vitals are not as high as they should be. So Leap, something to check out. You can head over to Ezoic and read their announcement. The cool thing with Leap is there's no like paid options. It's just free to all websites monetizing via Ezoic. So you should check it out. And I see there's probably a few questions coming on here while I am giving shout outs here. So we do have Jake, we got Avi, we have Alexander and Korush. Brian, what's going on? Avi has this first question. I have an affiliate site that over a year ago I didn't really build up, and I was wondering what's the first thing to rebuild and start earning from it, like fixing any problems. Okay, so you have an affiliate site over a year old and you didn't really build it up and was wondering, so tell me how many posts are on there, like what have you done? One thing that I can tell you is generally helpful is to do a gap analysis. And I may even do a like small mini course on this, but a gap analysis is assessing where your site is right now, looking at, what's going well, what's not going well, and looking at where you want to be in the future. What do you want the website to be? You can make it monetary, you can make it traffic, you can talk about how many posts you want to be published by a certain amount of time, and you look at the current state of your site and you look at where you want it to be, and then you create this gap analysis. With that gap analysis, you can create a plan to essentially fill the gap and take you from, one side to the other where you want to be in the future. So that's sort of the magic with a gap analysis. It makes you assess things a little bit more thoughtfully. So give me some details on it, Avi, and then we'll be able to go from there. Before I get into too many questions, I'm going to be drinking this beer for Beer Day. Happy Beer Day, everyone. This is a chai milk stout nitro. It is from Left Hand Brewing, which is only, it's under 2 miles away. I could walk to it. And they're, of course, out of Longmont, Colorado. And one of the cool things is I have really enjoyed Left Hand beers for many, many years, ever since I got into beer back in like roughly 2007 or so. And I actually visited Left Hand. I was here at Longmont several years ago just visiting because it's such a great brewery. So now I live super close, and this one is the chai milk stout. So, well, I'm kind of far away, but you know what? I'll get closer. Hold on. So the cool thing with the nitro, and I have one of their like proper stout glasses right here. So the cool thing with the nitro is the cascading effect of the foam. So it's pretty fun. You'll hear like a little extra pop, and it looks like there's a lot of questions coming through. So we'll start knocking them out in a second. So you hear the little extra foam there, and then you just pour. You pour hard. This is a big glass. Like you really, I'll even pour it over the computer. Dangerous. Shouldn't do this. But yeah, it's a big glass. It's your stout glass, and you can see the cascading effect there with the nitro. One of the best things about working for yourself is day beers, day drinking. All right. So, not sponsored. Chai milk stout, Left Hand Brewing. It's a good place. Check it out. You can get it across the nation. Okay, so I was waiting for a couple more details from Avi, but we'll keep pressing ahead. Goggle account says, I'm looking forward to when I can finally join Ezoic. I only get 2,500 page views a month. Hopefully I'll get there soon. So occasionally, well, you'll get there soon. Keep at it. Occasionally, Ezoic does open up for websites that have any level of traffic. They open this up, and I have never sent people over there because it's like a kind of a deadline. It's like you have to send people over, and there's like a short window, and people like apply and they get accepted, and then it fills up in like 15 minutes. So keep a lookout for that. But at the same time, it's like, keep pushing forward. You're going to get there in no time. So we have Sufidin says, hey buddy, how are you? I'm from Bangladesh. I want to know about KGR and KGR for next. I don't know what KGR for next means, but KGR is the keyword golden ratio, and it's a way to find long tail keywords. I won't go too in depth here unless you have specific questions, because I have 7 videos that cover the KGR. I released them in December. If you go to my channel or search for keyword golden ratio, look for the most recent ones. Again, I published these in December, so those are the ones that you want to check out. And it looks like we got a couple other questions here. I have this old Chromebook here that I'm using for just viewing the live stream and looking at the chat because my laptop's all the way over there. It's a little too far to read the questions, and the font's very small here. It's a little small for now. Karush says, do you think Amazon healthcare niche is profitable? Sure, almost anything is profitable. Healthcare, I would basically stay away from since it's in the money or your life categories, and it could get a little, tough on the Google side. Search for your money and your life in Google Updates, the EAT, and it may give you caution. Masher, what's up? Brian, how's it going? I'm looking to do a beanbag affiliate site. The top keyword is best beanbag bar chair with 9,900 volume. Is that too low? No, that's actually a pretty high search volume. It's a pretty high search volume, potentially fairly competitive at that number of searches. Goggle account says, I have a blogging niche site that has 200 posts. Most of the posts are 2 to 3 months old. The site's a year old, and that's when I uploaded my first blog, and it's only getting 2,500 page views. All right. And you're only getting 2,500 page views. Are you doing anything wrong? Am I underperforming? So you have 200 posts, and most of the posts are 2 to 3 months old. So most of the posts are 2 to 3 months old, so they're not really that old. I think potentially your site is underperforming a little bit, but I wouldn't be too concerned. Once you get maybe another month or so, then I would assess it again. Now, the fact that you have 200 posts makes me a little nervous. With that amount of content, I would expect you to get more, even if it's only 2 to 3 months old for most of the posts. That said, you should probably go back, and this is sort of a universal advice. If you have a site that has some amount of content and you're not getting as much traffic as you think, you should look at the quality, make sure the grammar is good, make sure you understand the level of competition for the keywords. So maybe it's a competitive niche and the age doesn't matter so much. It's just competitive and you're going to have to do more. So is it underperforming? It depends on what you were trying to do before and the kind of keywords that you were targeting. If they were pretty competitive, then maybe it's right on target. I'm not really sure. Cigar says, how many informational articles should we write? One best for X article. So I would aim for 50-50 informational to product reviews, or even more informational. So it's up to you, but 50-50 is probably safe. If you publish 70 to 80% informational, that would probably be totally fine. Masher said, you've had problems with Ezoic integration and you decided to remove the ads. Have I experienced origin errors from Ezoic? Their support seems to have a working solution. I haven't experienced that. I haven't used Ezoic on all my sites. I have heard some people have trouble with like some integration, but I added one of my websites recently and I had a little trouble integrating at first, but I think it was my mistake. I put in the wrong DNS name servers. And then once I updated it, it was fine after that. Okay, Avi says, I have 35 posts. Some are guest posts, but not all are really optimized. Should I go through every post and rewrite and optimize it? Should I redesign the site? Should I redo the keyword research or find new keywords? I would probably review all. I would basically start fresh. I would do all the things that you're talking about. So you don't necessarily have to rewrite the post, but I would go and look and understand what keyword you were targeting. Maybe take a look at the performance, see if it's doing what you expect. Maybe there's some information in your Search Console dashboard that you can go optimize based on that information because your site has been around for a while. Should you redesign the site? I would only redesign the site if there's some issue with the current design. I think designing a site or putting other themes on it, unless there's an actual problem going on, it's just kind of an activity that's not going to really pay off at the end. So assuming that the design is sufficient, I wouldn't worry about it. And I think from there, yeah, have a look at what's going on with the site as far as the content, the quality, the length, the keywords that you're targeting, and then go from there. All right. So one cool thing is I got this whole setup down here, so I actually can have guests. You can't see, I'm pointing over here a little bit. You can't see the full setup down here, but I have another chair, another microphone, and I actually have a new Zoom recorder over here. It's the P4 Pod Track. So it's made for podcasting, and there's 4 inputs, so we can have 4 microphones in there. There's 4 headphone jacks. So really you can do a sort of a round table interview situation. It's a little bit lighter and maybe not as sturdy as my other Zoom recorder, which is the H4n. The H4n seems to be more oriented for audio recording and maybe bands or recording concerts maybe. So it's more oriented towards that. And this is, it's called Pod Track, the P4 Pod Track, and it's made for podcasting. There's even some sound effects that you could program on there. It's pretty cool. And there's several dials. You can't see it exactly back here, but it's on the desk behind me. It's been awesome just to integrate everything together. So like I said, I got the 2 mics down here. Carl and I will wear our headphones. It's plugged in. I have a long USB cord over to the laptop, which is an old laptop. It's like a 2014 MacBook Pro. Nothing fancy. It's a workhorse. It's traveled all over the country. And I have that plugged in. Then I have my Canon T7i with a Sigma 18 to 35 1.8 lens right there that I'm looking at. And then that's plugged in, and it's all running through Ecamm Live, which is fantastic. I even record my interviews using Ecamm Live. We're going to be doing our first live interview next week, which will be, well, it won't be live, but we're interviewing a person via this whole system. So it'll be interesting to see how we set it up. I'm not 100% sure what we'll do. I may have to rejigger some things in here, but pretty big guest, actually huge guest for the personal finance and financial independence space. I won't reveal it yet. So sign up for the email list at milehighfi.club. All right. Someone mentioned that they have a site with 75% informational content, 25% money content. Zach says, I have a new site. It's 2 months old with 40 articles. You're not seeing any traffic in Google Analytics. The last site that Zach created had traffic by now. Is this normal? So it depends. So 2 months, I would expect some traffic, but the big mystery. So a couple questions have come through sort of like this. I don't know about your keywords. So if you did really good keyword research for a young site, low competition, long tail keywords, maybe keyword golden ratio type keywords, then I would expect you to get some traffic. Now, 2 months old isn't too old. 40 articles is pretty good. That's a nice launch for sure. So I would probably expect a little bit of traffic, but it all depends on your keyword research. Now, if your keyword research was good and you were doing long tail keyword research and you're not getting any traffic, there could be a quality problem. I have observed this in way too many times. It's so disappointing. People will say, yes, the content is very high quality. And then I look at it and it's really not that high quality. It's actually kind of bad. So when I see that, it makes me wonder about, every decision along the way, because if you're unable to detect the quality, then you could be missing something else, like with the keyword research. So bad keyword research with bad quality, well, it's probably not going to rank. That said, 2 months old is really not that old. So I would keep pressing on, maybe take a little break, maybe refine the content that you have published. Another thing that I see very often is people publishing whatever, 150, 200 articles, 300 articles, and they're not getting any traction. So it indicates there's some issue along the way. There is a sandbox phenomenon that could happen, but typically, if the content's good, you still will get some long tail keywords, assuming that you're publishing reasonable content. So your question is it normal? And I think, unfortunately, it is normal. But your real question is there something wrong? And I'm not sure. I would give it a little more time. I would say 3 months, you should have a little more traction. It makes a difference how long how long the posts have been published. Like someone mentioned, most of their articles are new out of the 200. They're like 2 to 3 months old. So maybe give them a little more time to age. So I would recommend the same thing. Google account says, I do rank for over 50 to 70 articles on the first page of Google. I have snippets at well, and the only SEO I do is keyword research, as I want to keep it as organic as possible. Is there anything else? And I'm very adamant on making this work, so I'm thinking of posting 1,000 articles before doing anything else. So, number one, if you're ranking 50 to 70 articles on the first page, that's great. You're moving in the right direction. I would keep moving forward. I would potentially try to get over your reservation on link building. It sounds like you said you only want to do keyword research. You can do on-page optimization, which is not link building. So on-page optimization, where you essentially use a tool like Market Muse to try to improve the content and really use data to hit the right keyword densities and a few other things like that. As far as keeping your site as organic as possible, that's fine if you want to do that. I would potentially look in some kind of promotion or link building. The fact is, even if you do zero link building, your site is still susceptible to any Google algorithm update. We'll take a little poll here. Has anyone in the audience not done any link building and been impacted by a Google algorithm update in a negative way? Probably the answer is yes. There's probably a few people that happen to. Let us know in the chat. And the fact is, link building is helpful. So if you don't want to approach it in a link building capacity, think of it as promotion, and that is useful. And actually, I'm just curious why Goggle account, why do you want to keep it as organic as possible? Is it a desire to just follow the rules that Google has placed before us? Why did you create the site? Do you want to earn money, or do you want to have and surely there's a blend of what you want to do, but are we doing this as a hobby so we can be, pure and not do link building and be white hat? Or are you trying to make some fucking money? Probably you're trying to make some fucking money, right? We're not doing this as a hobby. So you have to look at the balance and what works for you. I'm not here to judge. I have friends that make great money and they have private blog networks, and some other people that never build links. They only publish content and they're not into, some of those other details. But I mean, generally, if you're on this and you're interested in affiliate marketing, we're here to make money online. We're not here to, do it as a hobby or a charity or anything. Right. Next, we have Sagar, who says, sometimes I find keywords with KGR and the all-in title is 10, but high authority websites are ranked and there's no forums. And sometimes I find keywords with an all-in title of 150 and 4 forums rank. What should I do? Well, test. I think if you see a keyword and you think, well, this one sucks, even though the metrics look good from a KGR standpoint, publish it, see how it does. See if it does well, see if it doesn't. And then if you find another keyword and you think it's awesome, even though it looks more competitive, go for it. The KGR is a tool that you can use and it can help you identify certain things. But if you don't want to follow the KGR, you can do whatever you would like. So if you see a search phrase that has a lot of forums on the first page, that's usually a pretty good sign. So I would go for it. Use the keyword golden ratio as a tool in your toolbox. And if you walk around with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So if you walk around with a KGR and you're not paying attention to other details, then you're treating everything like a nail. So that's how the analogy goes, right? Sometimes you need a flathead screwdriver or an Allen wrench or one of those little star things that, it's a little harder. You got to get a special bit for that. The second question for Goggle account was, I'm adamant on making this work. Fantastic. That is one of the success markers. People that are dedicated and they're persistent and they will adjust and pivot as needed. Fantastic. I'm thinking of posting 1,000 articles before doing anything else. What's your say on that? I think that's potentially a very bad idea. So how long will that take you? It's 1,000 articles. That's a lot of fucking content. So I would maybe throttle it down just a little bit and maybe separate it into sprints. Maybe do 150 to 200 articles and then assess what's going on. So I wouldn't publish 1,000. I wouldn't do 1,000 of anything before doing anything else. Take this along sort of a phased approach, and you're learning a lot about content at this point in time. And if you just keep your head down and you just keep moving forward without checking what's going on, you can make some weird decisions. So take the feedback that the world's giving you and adjust along the way. All right. So now we have Michael. Oh, we got Money Lab, my friend Matt Giovanisi and Bob and Adrian. Yeah, Matt, I'm down in my basement. So it's National Beer Day. Today should have been the day we get together. So Carl and I were recording an episode of our podcast yet to launch. And I just had everything down here. And I was like, I'm already sitting down here. I got all the lights. I haven't moved the whole office down here. So my other office is upstairs. And I was like, I'm just chilling in the chair. I'm going to grab a beer. I didn't have a topic for today either. So we're just jamming and answering questions here. Right. Okay. So Michael says, and I'm getting behind on chat, so I got to talk faster. My site has 3.8 million page views this year. Congrats. 99% of the posts are informational. You're trying to begin affiliate marketing, but writers have been following through. Any tips there? Michael, yeah. So it depends on the issues with the writers, but I suspect you have been working with writers before. On this channel and on my blog, I have a few guides on hiring writers and giving them briefs and some specific templates that you can use. And actually just, if you sign up for the email list, I give you all my templates and stuff, you could just give them to the writers or use them however you see fit. But let me know, what are the issues that you're having with the writers? Typically, the more information that you can give the writer, like what sections to have in your article, what products to cover, and what features and benefits you want covered for the products, the more info you can give them about that, the more paint by numbers it is, the better your results will be. All right. Thanks to Adrian and Bob and some of the other moderators out there. And shout out to Matt over at Money Lab. If you haven't checked out his channel, do check it out. All right. And Goggle account does say, now I really want a passive income stream. I just thought posting articles was a better investment of time for me, just trying to follow what income school preaches, as it made sense to me. So as a counterpoint, and again, I'm not judgmental, so actually I probably am a lot. It's probably something that judgmental people say, but the approach of not building links, totally cool. The other side of the coin is building a lot of links. So you could check out somebody like Matt Diggity, who's a awesome affiliate marketer, super smart SEO, and he's a great link builder. He knows that side of the coin, and he's really good at implementing a link building campaign. And he's done really well growing sites like that. So the point is, there's a full spectrum, right? And some people will say, hey, it's a better investment to publish content. And some people will say it's a better investment to build links. And the interesting thing is we all have our biases. And I think this one is a confirmation bias. So basically, if you already sort of had it in your head that it's better to not build links, then you will gravitate towards the approach that Income School does, which is highly effective. If you come from the camp that thinks, links are important and I'm not opposed to building links, and maybe I kind of like building links, and you hear Matt talk, you will think, oh, building links is the way to do it. It turns out either way is fine. Pick what you like to do. There's a full spectrum in there. And if you ask me, I say they're both valuable. Do a little of each. I'm not as polarized. Not that Income School, Jim and Ricky, or Matt are like really dogmatic about what they're saying. I'm not sure. I try not to consume too much of my own medium here, and the same sort of content from my peers and competitors. Basically, there's a spectrum and you can pick somewhere in the middle. I usually just say, hey, I see value in both, and I'm not selling a specific thing which benefits by me coming out in opposition to or agreeing with either one of those things. Squarely in the middle. All right, Michael says, you're glad he said that's a bad idea. I was getting worried. You gotta assess what worked and what didn't work over the 200 posts. Yeah, specifically headhunting users with backgrounds that fit my niche and experience. Oh, sorry. Struggle to tear apart a topic. Stopping short of having to write an outline. That's where my issue is. Got it. So, overall, Michael, as far as hiring writers and making sure that they do a good job, you potentially, right, here's a great approach. And if you sign up for my email list, here's some of the stuff that you'll sort of discover. I do talk about hiring a couple writers, maybe holding their hands, kind of get them acclimated. Find, a few that work well. You're probably going to have to hire 2 to 4 times as many as you need to get to get the number that you want. So if you want 2 good writers, you may have to hire I don't even remember what I said. You may have to hire 4 to 8 writers to get a couple good ones. So with that said, as you work with the writers, I like to promote a writer from just writing to a content manager and editor, because they understand what you want after you've spent some time training them. If you can, writing an outline will basically solve your problem. If you can hire someone to write the outlines for you, then you've solved the problem. It's really good if you could just give the writer the outline, the sources that they need to reference, and a list of products. That way they could focus on the synthesis of just writing the content. Oh, and Matt from Money Lab said, I didn't know it was National Beer Day. I'm a bad home brewer. Yeah, you know what, man? I had no clue. My dad told me when I was chatting with him earlier. I probably would not have known. I think he heard it on the radio. He just happened to be in the car driving around and heard it on the radio. So, all right. So Satim says, quality versus quantity when you have a very low budget. I would aim for quality. if you have, let's just imagine, let's do a little thought experiment. I think maybe if you have one, we'll make it extremes too. You have one post that is really good, extremely high quality, or you have 10 posts that are terrible. They are poor grammar, maybe bad keyword research, versus one piece of content that's very good with good keyword research. Well, you probably would be better off with the high quality. And it always makes me, a little nervous, especially when I hear like, and I don't help this, but I hear people like the person on the chat here who said, hey, I'm going to publish like 1,000 articles. And I'm like, oh man, that's a lot. I'm not even going for that. Matt's not trying to do that either in Money Lab. So there's something to be said for the quality. And I think, I create this problem for people because I had a post and I did a video, I published 200 articles and I made X amount, 10X my revenue or whatever. And then people want to recreate it. I can't blame them. It's a good headline after all. But then it gets more and more. And now it's like, hey, I'm going to publish 1,000 articles or 2,000. And that's a lot. That's a lot. And the problem is if you don't have your process sort of honed in and refined, you are scaling up an ineffective, inefficient process, which just amplifies and scales up your mistake. So you need to have a handle on what you're doing, and you need to be able to be successful publishing 100 articles before maybe you should set out for 1,000. Or maybe let's scale it down. Maybe figure out what's going on with 20 to 50 articles before you scale it up to 20, 50 times that. If you figure it out early on, then you only have 20 or 50 articles to fix up, correct that mistake. If you scale it up to 1,000 articles, you're probably going to quit. You're probably going to quit. That's bananas. It's going to take you forever to fix 1,000 articles. You have to hire a team of writers and people to help you out. All right, we'll take a quick pause here. Number one, for me to have a sip of this delicious chai milk stout nitro from Left Hand Brewing. It's employee owned and righteously independent. It's brewed with spices. It is a chai milk stout. It's super smooth, milk stout nitro with aromatic spices. And I have the proper stout glass, indeed from Left Hand Brewing Company out of Longmont, Colorado. Quick shout out to fine sponsors out there. That is Niche Website Builders. They have some content services and some link building services for you. I've been playing around with the Shotgun Skyscraper campaign for a while. They've gotten me dozens of links. Some of them are, DR in the 70s. I think the average is in like the mid 40s, so like 44, 45, something like that. And they've been working with me for something like 9 months or so. They have a new FAQ service, which is fantastic. I highly recommend the FAQ approach. So even if you don't, hire their service, or at least let them know that you enjoy them sponsoring these live streams. They have a little chat thing, so you can just go follow the link in the description here. There's a little Facebook chat messenger deal. Just say, hey, we appreciate you sponsoring the show. It helps out a lot, trust me. Thank you. The FAQ method is really cool because you really can just go do some data mining, might be the wrong thing, but you do a little research. And then for nearly any piece of content on your site, you can add some FAQs by doing some Google searches and just hunting around a little bit. It's a fantastic thing to hire a VA to do. And the great part with FAQs is it doesn't have to flow in a narrative so much. You can just hire someone and they're just answering questions that are easy to do research for. Moving on to some more questions here. Sheridan says, is blogging still a good option for a living? Is it okay to start with blogging in 2021? Yeah, if you like writing, then start a blog. Or if you think you might like writing, blogging is fantastic. If you like talking, then do a podcast. If you don't mind video and you also like talking or doing like video essays or something, YouTube. I think blogging, YouTube, or a podcast is fantastic to get started with. There are pros and cons for each one, but blogging is fine. I mean, a lot of people read blogs or do research and try to get information from blogs. And next, Michael says, link building. Have discovered that spending effort on informational posts hasn't paid out for me, but building for resources and assets and downloadables has paid off much larger in the ROI in my experience. Oh yeah, very, very good point. Downloadables and assets. Tools are fantastic. That's one of the best things you can do. If you could come up with some sort of a spreadsheet, which I guess could be some kind of a resource as well. But those kind of tools are fantastic. Michael, great advice. And actually, Michael, shoot me an email, doug@nichesiteproject.com. If you're getting that much traffic on your blog, I would love to interview you and hear your story if you're willing to share it. Some people like to stay off the radar and stuff, but other people like to talk about themselves like me. That's why we do this whole thing. And Jason, what's up? Good to see you, buddy. I am not outside. I'm actually in the bunker here. I'm in the basement. And it's a work in progress. I think I'm going to end up sort of putting, so that's fabric back there. So I just got some fabric and it's hanging from what are basically the floor supports and just the underside of it's the basement. It's the basement down here. But this is insulation up here, and it looks sort of industrial. It doesn't look completely shitty. I know anyone who has taste or any kind of design preferences, they may not love the rustic and warehouse look, but we do what we can. and luckily, my podcast partner, Carl, he doesn't really give a shit either so much. But I think it probably will be good if I got more of the fabric and just put it over here and over there. So at least it's just a solid background. The cool part is because of the insulation around here, and I actually have a rug down below. So I have a nice area rug. It's all plush. It's really soft on the feet. And then we also have the rafters just above. There's very little echo down here, very little echo. There's a lot of flat surfaces, but they're all broken up. So these rafters are actually pretty good for the acoustics overall. So, and with the carpet down here, there's not much like just open flat spaces, which, can really kind of screw up your acoustics. So, but thanks for noticing. Yeah, different locale these days. Master says writing outlines for writers really saved me. I used to get disappointed by what the writer sent back. And then Master followed my advice. Great. And giving them an outline. And one of my students, Christy, she just wrote a new blog post over on Niche Site Project, which I didn't even send out an email today or this week yet, but I just published it. She's making $6,000 per month. She just crossed 100,000 visitors per month in March. So things are going well. She does a sort of a full content brief. So kind of what I said, it's like an outline and what products need to be featured, a little more detail, and a full brief. So it's very clear to the writer what she wants there. And Anchor, what's up? Do Google promote top best kind of affiliate articles? They will rank them. Google, as far as like promoting, the definition of the words in your question are really important. So promote, they don't really promote it, but they will rank best of articles. And Goggle Account says you love the vibe. Truly appreciate the answers. Oh, great. Thanks. Appreciate it. And Course says, how will home and furnishings niche perform in the future? Is there a scope in this niche? So The unfortunate part is I do not know the future. And I can honestly tell you, if I knew the future, I wouldn't even be here talking to you right now. I would certainly be doing something else. I might be drinking a beer still, but I definitely wouldn't be doing a live stream. So that said, home and furnishings, the housing market's hot here in the US, in a lot of preferable cities or popular cities, I guess. So I would say people are furnishing shit and they're buying stuff for their home. So I would say probably good. I have no real idea and I haven't done any research. As far as the scope in that niche, I think it's big depending on how you define it. So furnishings and home could be huge, right? You can talk about smart home stuff. You could talk about man cave and like turning this space here into a home office and studio. I mean, there's so many routes you could take. You could focus on the bathroom, bedroom, closet space. You can do full niches on any room in the house, really. So if you define home that way, I would say very good. Furnishings, well, you see my makeshift furnishings here. I mean, this is a TV tray that I'm using. I mean, this is a legit table, but I stole it from upstairs, truth be told. So I have to take this back when I'm done. But I'll buy a new one. Don't worry. The point is, I don't know anything about furnishings. So there's a lot of products, though. Hasib says, how many articles do I have to start blogging? I think I can just start with 5 articles or so, exclamation. Yeah. Yes. Start small. 5 is fine. If someone just came up to me and asked, I would say, hey, start with 10, get started slowly and publish 10 and then kind of reflect and take a look. Is it working how you thought? And, going back to the previous point of like publishing, 500 or 1,000 articles, I think I have to cough here in a second. So the cool thing, there's a mute button here. And hopefully you didn't hear me. I'm not actually monitoring, so I don't know. But there's a mute button and sound effects. Maybe we'll try some of the sound effects in a second. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, start small. And I could tell you one of the podcasts that Carl and I have recorded for the Mile High Fi podcast is around just starting something, starting anything. And there's a lot of resistance when you're thinking, hey, I want to start a blog, but people have been blogging for a lot of years. Like maybe it's too late, or it seems like I should get into podcasting and maybe podcasting is saturated. I thought about starting a podcast in 2009. Think where I would be now if I started a podcast in 2009. At the time, I thought it's saturated. There's way too many podcasts out there. And the funny thing is, I think back to some of the podcasts that I listened to in 2008, 2009, when I was thinking about this, thinking that it was too crowded. Some of them were terrible. Like I listened to them and I was like, are they fucking recording on their phone in a, like an echo chamber? Like this is awful. And I stopped listening to them because the quality was so low. And if I just would have like done a mediocre job and stuck with it, that was a few years ago. I mean, I can't imagine. So the whole point is start small. There's like resistance. 5 articles. You don't need 50 or 100 articles. I think in time, you'll grow into whatever is appropriate for you, but starting small is the right way to do it. Michael says that you will reach out. We have a similar background. Awesome. Yeah, it'll be great to meet you. Yeah, shoot me that email, Michael. Bob over at R7 Eagle says, regarding FAQs, do you have any data on how affiliate links perform when they're put in answers to questions in FAQs? No, I have no data on that at all. Never even thought of it. Good question, though. So the one thing with drinking beer while recording or doing something is, in doing it solo, is you have to take a second to drink that beer. In fact, in a week or so, there will be a YouTube video where I recorded a podcast at the same time because I had this whole setup down here. And I thought I'll come down and record down here. It's kind of peaceful. It's dark here in the basement. Although I like the sun, but it's nice and peaceful down here. And I brought a beer down, and you just have to stop and drink the beer. But we're not in a hurry, so it's no big deal. The other downside is sometimes you have to burp, and no one really wants to hear that. I used to listen to these homebrewing beer podcasts, and they burp into the microphones, but it was kind of a different. They know their crowd. You drink beer, sometimes you got to burp. It happens. All right, moving on here. We'll answer a few more questions. I did give a shout out to Ezoic already. So Ezoic Leap and Niche Website Builders, sponsors of the show. They help, they help motivate me to do live streams. And if you haven't checked out my podcast, it's Doug.show. We talk about the same topics. I have some cool interviews, and there's a lot of content that doesn't make it over here to YouTube. So Doug.show, please do check it out. I actually enjoy recording that podcast, and it's for kind of a weird reason. The podcast world has sort of a gap. Analytics are terrible. It's really hard to get the data. At best, you can kind of understand how many downloads you're getting, but even that is not really accurate. So on YouTube, you get so much data and so much information that you can make really weird decisions, and it can kind of distract you if you pay attention to analytics too much. So with that said, the podcast is a little fun because it kind of frees me up. I don't look at the metrics as often. I maybe check in about once a month or once a quarter. And the last time I looked, turns out a lot more people were listening and are listening to the podcast than I thought. Just really slow growth, and then it's crazy. So check out the podcast. I'd appreciate it. And if you haven't signed up for my email list, nichesiteproject.com, click that green button, enter your name and email address, and I'll send you all my templates. You get the KGR template. There's a bunch of content templates, so Michael's going to go check it out. And there's actually a full guide on hiring and working with writers. You literally could create a content agency and probably make 6 figures a year easy by running a content agency, never writing a word yourself. Now you got to sell this shit, but you could hire a bunch of writers and use the templates that I give you for free and run an agency. You could do it all through Upwork. You could build your whole agency on Upwork and just have people come find you. Funny thing, right? If you, total side note, if you go over to, it's related though. I'll say the related part before I go on a tangent here. If you do that content company, you could have some notes and information about the keyword golden ratio as a part of your little resume and profile on Upwork. Say, hey, my content company can do keyword golden ratio content. It's a buzzword. It's a thing now. The reason why I tell you that is you could go over to Fiverr. People check now, and you could tell me in the chat. Go to Fiverr, look up keyword golden ratio, check out how many people are offering services on that. And I don't get a kickback on any of it. It's just curious. It's a curious thing. All right. So Repairs Hub said, I wanted to create a new website. Please suggest me a niche. So I really don't do that so often. Usually I give some sort of a snide remark. Today I'll be more polite. Maybe it's this chill environment. I got a burp coming on. You drink beer on the air. You're going to crack some eggs, right? Okay. What I would recommend for you, Repairs Hub, is to go to my channel and there's a little search bar. There's a magnifying glass there. Type in finding a niche, choosing a niche. There will be at least 2 recent live streams where I step through the process and show you how to do it. What I typically don't do is just tell someone an answer. If someone just says, hey, tell me a niche, I usually tell them like erectile dysfunction. So it's not really helpful. It's a little funny. Some other people are probably laughing now. You do something about baldness, erectile dysfunction. Yeah, so I would say those are pretty profitable, but I wouldn't get into them specifically. But go watch those videos. Those are actually helpful. Goggle account. I don't know how to say it. Do you do site reviews? I really need to know if something's wrong with my site. What do I recommend? Or am I just being impatient considering that most of my articles aren't that old? Yeah, I do site reviews, but I charge by the hour. So it's $450 an hour. You can go to nichesiteproject.com, hire-me, and give me your information. I'll see if I can actually help. I don't work with people if if I'm like, hey, here's the answer. I'm not trying to, charge money and waste your time and my time for no reason. But your site's pretty young. I don't do free site reviews for a couple reasons. Number one, some people do them live on shows and just let the visitors and viewers submit. And then I would tear down your site on the air and everyone would see it. They would see your keywords. They would see your whole site. So I usually don't do that because people don't realize that giving up all that information is not really helping you out that much. Copycats can come in, take all your keywords, move on. So not super helpful. So I try to, prevent people from putting all that information out there unnecessarily. The even bigger reason, because I get emails, someone shoot me an email and say, hey, can you take a look at my site? I won't do it anymore. I used to do it, but the problem is if I look at your site and I give you advice, let's say I spend an hour looking at your site, give you 10 things to work on. I used to do this, and what would happen is I would give that advice. I would use my time up, give free advice, and then the person wouldn't do any of the things that I mentioned. They would contact me a few months later and then say, well, yeah, I didn't do that other stuff, but can you look at my site again? Something's still not right. And they said, I didn't do any of the things you mentioned because they got advice elsewhere. So people don't care about free advice typically. Yeah, I know some other folks have given that answer, and some people have said, well, I would take your advice. And it's really kind, but I still think people don't value free advice as much. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me if you take the advice or not, if you've paid me for my time. And sorry, I bumped my elbow there, but the point is, me analyzing sites for free is unsustainable and not very enjoyable. Hence, I charge, and at this point in time, that's enough money for me to hang out and chat with you about your site. All right. Staspedia says, what are the niches that you have scoped to work in 2021? So I don't share my personal niches or anything. As far as just in general, really almost any product or niche that is selling on Amazon is going to be a profitable one. Some are going to be better than others. You could take a look at the commission rate structure to maybe rule out certain product lines or departments that don't really pay that much. But in general, if products are selling on Amazon, people are buying it, it's going to be fine. As far as gardening specifically, sure, there's tons of products for gardening. We've been talking about our yard and things we've been doing for a couple months now, and people like to get outside. There is an amount of seasonality to it, but you can get them, or you can get those sort of products that are sort of the opposite season. So like growing seedlings and grow lights would be things that people would purchase during sort of the off season of gardening. Bob says, you've been listening and I haven't started to slur my words yet. Well, luckily I haven't had other beers besides this one. I'm only halfway done. It's not a super high alcohol either. Only 5%. So reasonable beer for the middle of the day. Ahmed says, am I still using the KGR technique? Yes. Do I have any new keyword research techniques? No. Apart from keyword research, how do you find topic research and what metrics do I analyze before finalizing a topic? Okay, so no new techniques. It turns out, like many things, there are sort of classic strategies that just work, and long tail keywords work pretty well if that's your thing. If you're going after more search volume, the same sort of ideas work, and you may have to dive into link building. There are certain techniques that work well for link building. So no new things. As far as keyword research and topic analysis, I have started to use MarketMuse more to understand how to create more well-rounded content. There's several tools that can do it. It's like Surfer, Page Optimizer Pro, MarketMuse, Phrase. I think that's another one. And I've only dabbled with like 3 out of those 5 that I mentioned, but those are good ways to look at content from a more analytical and data forward standpoint. And what metrics do I analyze before finalizing a topic? Not many, usually just search volume at this point. I'll have a look qualitatively at the competition in the SERPs, but one thing that I am doing more of is spending like less time with like small decision making. So some of the sites that I'm building out now, I'm testing out the services that I'm working with. So people like niche website builders do a little work with brand builders or sponsoring a case study for me. And I'm trying to think of some other stuff. I let the companies do their thing. And instead of making a decision on the keywords that I'm approaching and that I'm targeting, I ask them, hey, what do you think? Because number one, I don't have to make those 150 decisions. But also, it's testing the service how you would use it yourself. So I would say I don't look at many metrics anymore, and I'm going like a higher level up, and I don't care as much about some of the details most of the time. So for certain case studies, for certain pieces of work, I'm looking a little closer. When I'm working with students, I'll analyze what they are doing because they need some advice, and it's good for me to keep the skills up and all that. But in general, I'm not looking at too many metrics. Goggle Account says you checked Fiverr and there are 380 people offering KGR services on Fiverr. Crazy, huh? All right, my voice is starting to go. Recorded for a few hours today. Any last questions here? So we have Bob who says, do I have an average length for my post? So it depends on the topic. You should use one of the tools that I mentioned before so you can understand how long the average content is and kind of what you should target. But as a general rule, if someone's just like, how long should my content be? Usually I'll say around like 1,300 words is a good start. And then let's hit this mute button again. It's just that talking for a long period of time wears out the old voice a little bit. So 1,300 words is sort of like a good average to aim towards, but if it's a very basic topic with a quick answer, give the quick answer. Maybe 300 to 400 words is just perfect. If so, answer quickly. If it's a bigger topic, more complex, more things to cover, more topics, more subtopics, and you have a look at the competition, and the top 10 results that are similar to your site have 4,000 words, maybe you should aim for 4,000 words or more, just so you can compete with that given keyword. So have a look. And see you later, Bob. Michael says there's a slight difference. There's a difference between working at scale and working in the early startup phase. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And the thing is, once you publish, say, an article with 1,300 words, maybe you just launch it and get it out there. And then you come back later and you add more content and you end up at the 3,000 words, something like that. So one thing we got to test is the little sound effects here. So this PodTrack P4 has a few sound effects. Let me turn the volume down. The cool thing with this baby is there are a few, and if you have last minute questions, go ahead and put them in while I'm messing around with this thing. So there's little volume dials for each of the inputs, including the microphones, and a little sound effect thing. So I can't remember what's on the first one here. A little jazzy. You guys can hear that, right? Cool. All right, next one. All right, that's a quick one. I think this one is applause, probably. It's been a pleasure out here today. Nice. All right, what's the last one here? Oh, I should use that one more. Yeah, and I think it's kind of cool. You could fade it in and out. So potentially, I only have 4 of those. So 4 of those little sound pad things, and it would be kind of cool to put the intro, and then potentially I could just record my podcast here and upload it directly, not have to process it at all. It's a pretty sophisticated little piece of electronics here. And the thing is, I saw that these babies were out, didn't pay too much attention. I was like, but they're pretty expensive. Turns out brand new, like at Best Buy, they're like $200, which is pretty good. That's quite a steal. 4 inputs. It's a little mobile like podcast studio. Pretty badass. Has these things on here. And what I like to do, and actually people in the crowd, just a little round of applause if you buy from eBay too. Oh yeah. People do buy from eBay. That's great. So I bought this on eBay, and I don't know where it came from, but it must have been like an open box item. Still in the box. Looks like it has never been used, and I got it for $150. So shop around on eBay. I have gotten most of my recording equipment from eBay, like at least this microphone or that microphone. It's a Shure SM58. You can get them, relatively inexpensive, but they are a lot cheaper if you get them on eBay. You get them lightly used, and it depends on the product, right? You're not don't order boxers on eBay, right? But a microphone that is hardly used is pretty awesome. And these are like metal, I don't want to tap on the microphone and make it noisy, but basically these are so durable. Even if it's a few years old, even if they're beat up a little bit, they're probably going to sound and perform fine. And you put these little foam things on it and you really can't tell. These are, relatively inexpensive. They're under, I think you buy some of these mics brand new, they're under $100, but you don't have to have the super fancy like SM7Bs, whatever the Shure mics are that are the ones that all the big podcasters use, like Joe Rogan. And they're still affordable. They're like maybe $300-400, but you can record really high quality audio with under $100 microphone and a relatively inexpensive recorder like that. Or, you can get the kind that plug right in, but okay. Last couple questions here. Ahmed says, can I mention some resources of training content writers? I have, go to my blog, Niche Site Project, click the green button, get all my templates, right? enter your name and email. I'll send them to you. There are like project management templates so you can track the status. It's essentially a spreadsheet that you and your writers can share so they know what to work on. You know the status, you know when it's finished. There's a template for writing reviews, and there are a couple other templates. There are templates for the writing briefs so that you can create the outline, provide other information for your writers, and so on. So there's other things I don't know what they are. I haven't memorized all the things that I have out there. All right. Oh, and Matt says that's the way to do it. Yeah. All right, Matt, I'll shoot you a text in a few minutes once I finish up here. We're supposed to get together and everything. All right, Goggle, final question. Even if someone knows about your niche, does it affect that much? Like, is that a thing, stealing keywords, even if someone targets the same keywords? If your articles are better and original, wouldn't it still win? So I'll tell you a little story. So technically, in theory, what you're saying is correct. The part that isn't as obvious is that some people are mean. And me personally, I've had some people copy my sites. So they copied like all the keywords and they just copied everything. They were pretty good keywords. And it was clear that they were copying what I was doing from a couple. They left some stupid footprints. They weren't copying it verbatim, so it wasn't a copyright takedown situation, but it was enough for them to start siphoning off some percentage of the visitors. So that sucked. People do competitor analysis. That's a way to do keyword research. That's a fair way to do it. The downside is sometimes there's negative SEO that shows up too. So it may not impact a person who is not a YouTuber or a podcaster or a blogger who is in the space, like me and Matt or Alex at WP Eagle or so on. But if you have some public facing persona like we all do, sometimes people just want to fuck with you. So I've had a site where someone 301 redirected like hundreds of domains and sent spam links to my site for some period of time. And my site got penalized. I got a manual penalty. And it took me about a month to get it recovered, get the penalty lifted and get the traffic back. And it cost me like over 5 figures. So I'm pretty cautious with it and try to keep things like under wraps. Now, it may not impact you directly right now, but let's say you sometime in the future start a blog. Let's say you do a YouTube channel and then someone comes after you, which is what happened to me. When I started the blog, like the site that got penalized, like no one really paid attention to me. But over time, people started to, and then that's when the issue started. Very recently, I interviewed someone and they shared a lot of their story. And then later, I was like, hey, you want to come back on? And they were like, no, I don't want to because my site's doing so well now. I don't want anyone to like copy it and mess with it or interfere with the trajectory right now. So it may not matter now, but if you give up the information right now, it's out there forever, right? So if you have me review your site, there's a couple people who will be on the live stream or they watch the replay later, and then they'll talk about it. They'll go to a Facebook group or a forum and say, hey, someone put their site out and it wasn't doing much back in April 7th of 2021, but look at it now. It's only been 6 months and look what it's doing. And then maybe they're in the same niche. Maybe they've been around longer than you and they just take what you have done. Or they take what you have done and they hit you with negative SEO and you're kind of sitting there and there's not much you can do about it. You have to like keep clawing your way through it. Now, someone could do all that stuff even if you don't have someone look at your site, but that's why I don't review the sites like this. Okay. What else do we have here? So that's the little story. So would you still win? And it turns out if someone copies your stuff and they do a better job, they could beat you. So sad, but true. Yeah, Michael says copycats will happen if you stay in long enough. Well, the bad part, if you do something publicly like I do, is sometimes it's not just copycats, it's people who just want to try to impact you negatively for no good reason. All right, see you, Jason. Have a good one. And Goggle account. Thanks, Michael. I'll be looking for your email. Matt, I'm going to text you in a minute. Vivek says, hey, Doug, I changed the content of some articles to make it error-free. At that time, my articles were ranking on the first page. The ranking has changed from first page to the second page. Should I wait or restore the article to what was written before? I would. So if I take this as you've written it, that you have improved the content by removing errors, I would wait. I wouldn't change it back to the error prone or the error rich content. Hopefully Google and the readers will figure out what's going on and they will reward you for getting rid of the errors. Usually when I have corrected like grammar mistakes and edited the content, I can't think of a single time where the rankings didn't go up and it didn't help the overall article. So I would wait a little bit. Did you change anything else or did you just remove errors? And that said, I think that's pretty definitive, like overall. Like if you made it better, that's a good thing. So cheers, everyone. I'll wait for the final little answer to come through. This is the old chai milk stout. Don't forget, check out the sponsors. They are in the links in the show notes here. Go to Ezoic, go to Niche Website Builders, send them a message, tell them that you appreciate sponsoring the show. And last question, Asim says, without any backlinks, is it possible to rank my blogs using the KGR technique? Yeah, it is. Having links is better, but you can do it without links. And that's it for today, everyone. I'll finish the beer as we're closing out. Computer's way over there, but I can see, and I got this wireless mouse here.